There we go.
Today's date is Tuesday, January 24th. 23rd, 2024. Meeting of the curriculum committee and Conway is present and Kelly Lenger is here, and Frank McCree, and we are missing Kim.
All right. So one of the things that we wanted to bring up and we started to look through, and I'm going to credit Trisha for this, is, one of the conversations we had at a board meeting was study halls and the amount of students in our study hall. So I said to Karen, I go, instead of anecdotally trying to figure this out, let's actually take a deep dive in.
Yeah.
Let's look and see what the data says, because then if the data says we need to do something or where our problems are, then we can start programming appropriately or looking at programs for long-term figuring it all out. So we actually did this, and we started to dig in a little bit.
Can you put that on slideshow?
Every time I go to slideshow and I'm sharing, which one? Oh, right here. Okay, there we go. Perfect. Look at that. That's fancy. So what we asked for was a snapshot of our current 11th and 12th graders. And now the reason why I said 11th and 12th graders is because the way that we program for our 9th and 10th graders really does front load their years. For example, our foreign language, right? We do something in 8th grade, they've already got their first year requirement. So that by 9th grade, they're doing Spanish 2, 10th grade, they're doing Spanish 3. And then if we're lucky, we'll get them to Spanish 4 their junior year. If not, the majority of our students aren't going to do that. So my daughter, for example, has already told me she's not taking Spanish 4 next year. So I'm like, well, you have to take something in your place. So, and that comes down to another conversation, is the philosophy at home, right? Is it a study hall that you're going to take or something in its place, right? That's a parent conversation that has to be had as well, but we have to offer things. So if you look at this is our snapshot. Our period 1, there are 48 students. This is duplicate count. So you might have somebody who has a study hall period 1, may have a study hall period 3, might have a study hall period 5. That's not non-duplicate. So it's all duplicate counts. So 48 students have a study hall period 1 who are in grade 11, 28 period 9. They do not get late arrival or early release. And then in the middle of the day, you can see the other ones. Grade 12, 15 students, 13 students, and you see your totals on the bottom. So that is a large amount of our students. Kelly.
If a senior has late arrival,
Yep.
are they still assigned to study hall?
Yep. So no, they don't, but we're counting them in to the next component of it. No, that's what we wanted to figure out. So seniors are allowed to arrive at 2nd period or leave at the end of 8th period. So 21 students have late arrival.
Obviously if they have a study hall.
Yep.
Right.
Right. So this 13 students, there's another 21 seniors who have late arrival.
Meaning, what does that mean?
I mean, early release, sorry. It means that they don't have to come in period 1.
But they don't have a study hall first period? What
No,
do they have?
nothing. They could stay home and then they come
They
in.
have late arrival.
Yeah.
They come in up to 7 minutes.
Yeah. Does your school have that as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, most schools do. And then you have early release as well. So 21 students have late arrival, 44 students have early dismissal. So we have a large amount of our senior class that could be taking more, right? There could be more there for them.
And the senior class is small, right? It's
It
like
is.
60 something.
You're talking over 50% of our kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like 70 kids. Yeah. So that was one of our aha moments, saying, we have a lot of kids. Again, if a child has an ability to take a course or take late arrival, they might be taking late arrival, right? But it all depends on what we have. Additionally, 71 students 2nd quarter receive varsity athlete status. That's out of our juniors, correct, Karen?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
No. I think that's everyone, but
Juniors
they
and
show the
juniors
next
and
slide has.
oh,
the
thank
junior,
you.
I think is how they gave it to me.
Thank
The
you.
data. I didn't dig the data, so it's not.
Yeah.
That way. That's just the rules kind of on the and process.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll go to the next one. This is the rules for early arrival and late arrival and early dismissal. Here, this is better.
There you go.
So out of our 70 seniors, either late arrival, early release, and multiple study halls, 52 out of 70 are
And when
impacted
they
on
say
that.
multiple study halls, I don't know, this, I think, includes if you have one on an A day and not on the B day. So I have one every day, eighth period, but I also on A days have one opposite my lab, my gym, my course, whatever it is. So multiple would be anything over one. So I think it also includes 1.5.
So they could have more than one study hall.
On a
in
day.
a day.
So one
Yes.
day they will have multiple, at least
Yes.
one day they'll have multiple.
And it could be kids with 3 or 4. We didn't have
I
them
don't have those numbers,
because
but-
unfortunately we didn't, in order for them to get some of those numbers, they really have to pull each schedule and go
Yeah,
through it.
okay, it's a
And
lot.
you know what, we're like, you got more things to do. So
Yeah,
the
let's
overview is
start
all
with
we
this,
kind of
yeah.
need to do. 61 of 95 of our juniors have multiple study halls, but there is the varsity athlete status. Now, this is an important one because those kids, the idea of varsity athlete is that they should be taking another course, right? Or doing something else. 61 of the juniors who have multiple study halls, 39 of those are because of the varsity athlete status. And 22,
My child.
yeah, and 22 of them have multiple study halls scheduled.
Can you explain the varsity athlete status?
So it's something that's been here. I know that Joe and I talked about it when I first got here and had some conversations, and it was here prior. If you play, what is it, two varsity sports, you get exempt from going to a PE class. Yep.
Okay.
So that is how you be able to get the credit for that. And therefore then it's supposed to, and the idea behind it is you then, if you're taking IEP courses, all those things, you get a little bit of opportunity to be able to make up some of that time frame that you're putting outside of school.
Yeah.
Or you're taking electives or other things to be able to help increase your understanding in educational environment. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, but we're not sure if all of those things are occurring,
Mhm.
all the time. So that's kind of where we're at. I think some of the things that we're looking at, and here's where our bigger takeaways were. Our biggest takeaway was there's some truth behind the anecdotal information that we're hearing. It's like there's a lot of study halls. And now it comes down to what are we doing, right? What are the conversations we're having? And what do we offer our kids? Is it all AP level courses? Are there mid-level ranges? Are there electives? Is there work-based learning? Is there other things?
Yeah.
Like
Kind
what?
of room for opportunities do we have that somebody could still choose to take a study hall,
Right.
but do we have enough in place that if they wanted something different?
Right.
there's an
What I said to
opportunity?
Karen is like, I'd love to actually build a teaching class where we do a teaching symposium, have the kids take it, maybe get teaching certified, like teacher assistant certified by the end of the course,
Mhm.
do some other things. Think about it. It helps build kids into the profession of teaching and then, gets them interested in understanding it. So like basically a CTLE course for an elective of a senior who might be interested in doing that, like
And then,
going to Hudson Valley,
if you
right?
do
Or
get to
somewhere else.
Where you're going. I mean, I heard that so many times. Students who thought they wanted to be a teacher and then they didn't get in front of a class until they were,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just about to graduate.
just
Right.
about to
Yeah.
graduate, and they're like, that's not what I want, So how nice to be able to.
So we kind of wanted to hear your thoughts. I mean, now that we know the data's here, like we know there's things. We've been talking about doing more electives and more processes for a while, and we keep adding electives. But what else is what could we do? What are we missing? What are your thoughts on this?
First, are there teachers that have any room in their schedule to even teach?
6. So if we start offering 6 outside of their realm, right? So and it could be like we have to also incentivize this, right? I think if you're going to offer it, a teacher should want to do it. It shouldn't be like something like I want to teach statistics and they don't want to teach statistics,
But if you have a passion for something,
that.
Right.
I
like a
would-
teaching course, like anyone could teach a teaching
Anyone
course,
could do that, right.
you would have to be passionate in doing so. Like,
I was thinking, I'd thrown out to Frank the other day, I'm a certified English teacher, right? 712. I'm not a certified theater person, but maybe that could be one outside that's something I really love. I could
Right.
certainly do an intro. I could,
Mhm.
if it's something that I'm passionate about and excited about, maybe that would be something that I would have been interested in doing.
we met a teacher who teaches a rock class.
Rock and roll.
Yeah, a rock and roll elective course.
Mhm.
So I think it's out there,
Okay.
and look at Dave Lawrence. I mean, he's a prime example. He's doing one that he really likes teaching these courses. They're brand new electives and,
Kids got excited about them.
kids got excited and he's passionate about them,
He's passionate.
so they're there. I mean, we don't, again, I haven't pulled the numbers to say, do we have a lot?
Yeah.
But we do have abilities to say, look, they are 6, they're built in there. you know, and we could put the money in to make sure that we address it.
And I don't think we've ever asked students, talk to students about what are things that you get excited about for an art fair.
Yeah, I was thinking, have we surveyed? I think we'd have to give them some potential choices. Because I think to just ask them any
Topics or-
abstract about electives, I don't know
It
that
might
might
be
get.
too open.
Yeah,
And again, this isn't something to come this year. This is
Yeah.
like, how are we
Building.
building, you know? I know we had work-based learning prior to my arrival, and then it kind of went away. But, you know, that can hit a certain amount of kids or other things like internships, like,
yeah.
you know, there's, you know, we were talking about, we have a, you know, let's say one of my English teachers is Google certified. Would they want to do a Google certification
I
course?
mean,
Like,
that would be so practical for
Yeah.
kids, right? To have something that, you're going off to college, but you have all
Right.
these skills.
Yeah, or like a coding for dummies type.
that, well, there's
course,
another idea, right? Now,
right?
would it ever come to the fact that would we have to hire staff for some of these things? Maybe, who knows, right? But, you know, when electives are not credit-bearing they're credit-bearing courses, but they're not needed towards graduation.
Right.
Another option, again, I'm just throwing it out here, but please, you know, you could always change your requirements and say that you need more credits to graduate high school, but then you're forcing into something that, and you're creating something, it's not something I would do.
I don't love that.
Yeah, neither, me, I'm just,
Either.
I've talked to some districts and that's what some districts have done, and I'm just, not
And we
something I
already have
love.
something in place where we say this is a local requirement of
CFM.
the finance.
Which is
Which
important.
is good, but I wouldn't want to limit.
So we're talking electives, project-based learning, work-based learning.
So for a foreign language, we've talked about this
Yep.
before. Latin is, it sounds like a possibility.
Yep,
Actually, that'll be on our next
Yeah.
slide.
And I think that would be great. I took Latin in high school
Yeah.
and loved it. One thing that's come up in years past that we haven't cycled back to is like an IB program.
mhm.
Like, is there an opportunity to create a track for that? And
So IB is
I don't-
super expensive.
And
I don't know a lot about it,
Yeah.
No, I do.
so
And you're kind of targeting some of those same kids that.
For AP.
yeah.
And it also doesn't count towards your numbers, by the way.
Yeah.
But IB programs are really expensive. There was conversation about regionalizing IB. Like you create regional programs that you could, like a BOCES program for
Mhm.
IB, students to go and do that. Doing it in a district like ours, it's pretty expensive in order to get that off and running for a small amount of students.
So we do the university and the high school.
Yep.
But those, like, at least my son did 2 of those, but they were self-study over the summer. Like that, I don't think would be a
Mm.
good model, but if you had like a live teacher where they zoomed in.
Yeah. So
From
so
here.
that becomes contractual issues, but
Yeah.
our foreign language teachers were pretty adamant because we talked about options, and they're like, doing Zoom stuff and doing online does not work for foreign language. They were pretty, they said to me, no, but I think that's a conversation, like another conversation is, and we're again brainstorming and thinking about things is, if we have students outside of this, that are doing these things, would somebody want to do a symposium? Would a teacher want to get, extra money and do a night symposium or something? Why do we have to do that during the day? Again, conversations, long-term planning. But
Right.
what if I had a teacher that would love to do a symposium once a week for 3 weeks on something, why are we limiting our ability of what school can be for kids?
Agreed. That even came up when I was talking to the department supervisors. From the department chairs talked about how when he was in high school, it wasn't a semester course. It was we're doing 3 weeks during, it was a period that happened to have a lot of kids in the study hall. And if you were interested in archaeology or in whatever, like you could join. It was like more fluid that way.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you're not doing credit, but you're trying to gain the exploration or that exposure, there are different ways we can do that too,
We can look at our schedules, we can look at other options, but it comes down to, I think, what we offer.
Mhm.
Right. And what are the conversations we're having? Because we just started offering electives, right? I mean,
Mhm.
we didn't really offer a ton of electives. I mean, we offered our AP electives in our higher end, but we didn't offer a ton of other ones. In college and high school becomes an issue because let's say I have a teacher who is teaching a course and we love to get them college and high school. That doesn't necessarily mean that the college will approve that teacher. They have some weird requirements at
Yeah.
times and other stuff.
Yep.
So
Yep.
We've had that.
We've had that where we've wanted to do it and they won't let us. So other thoughts?
Well, I love the idea of adding electives and adding, pathways, for kids. And we don't have, I can't think that there's anybody at the high school that's part-time. So it would be, adding a sixth, which not everybody wants to do, but adding, when we talk about, adding staff and it costs money. That's the way of the world. And I know it's important that that things are sustainable, but if something is, even if we can't predict long-term, so even if it only lasts 5-6 years, then you've benefited those kids for 5 or 6 years. It doesn't have to be sustainable for the next 50.
Yeah.
It needs to be sustainable for a few years, because even if just 2, 3, 4 grade levels get the access to those classes,
Right.
you've benefited those children.
In an elective class, I actually agree with you. Right? In an elective class, I think it's important, and I would say, yep, you've been able to do it. And when it comes core classes
Mm.
and something that you'd want to be able to continue, that's where you're cutting program. If it's an elective and it's an add-on, totally agree.
Or it's that every other year,
Yeah.
or,
Because that's the other option that we've been discussing too, is doing every other year electives. Let's say we take an art elective, and instead of having 6 kids in it, and I was speaking to a guidance counselor about this the other day, you offer another, a 2 years rotation. So you offer, every 2 years. Then you get 12 kids in it, and then they can offer jewelry making or bookmaking. Like they did an awesome bookmaking class that you were talking about before. They don't offer it anymore. But, and again, we haven't talked to them about this. I'm just saying
No.
there are options of scheduling and conversations. And again, this isn't for next year.
Yeah.
This is but we need to start having some long-term conversations about how we're programming for kids. This is clear to me that it's needed.
Yeah, I think there are some days where my son has 3 studies in the day. I can double check. his
And you would make him
schedule
do other electives if there are
So his-
opportunities.
now. I absolutely would.
Yeah.
And he would do it on his own, but I think there were things that didn't fit because he was trying to fit
And that's
in
the other thing. for sure.
AP, like as many APs as he
Right.
could. And, it was just hard to find electives that were available during the periods when he had the study.
More options, more opportunities. And I think ag is another one. We have Burn right up the road, right?
I think it's a huge
Well,
one.
in addition
Yeah.
to the ag pathway that they offer,
Mm-hmm.
they're offering a substantial technology pathway. And I know that we have technology, but we have one technology teacher in the middle school. But my son is getting a technology pathway that he's taking unmanned aerial systems. He's taking transportation systems. He's in 10th grade, he's taking like 7 courses, and they're constantly building. And that's, if there can be partnership. Now, I don't know their class, how big his classes
Right.
are, but I know a million years ago, my brother came down and took a statistics
Right.
class here because they didn't offer
They didn't have
statistics
any.
before
Right.
Voorheesville did.
So
So there happened.
Tim and I have had, Tim is the superintendent over there. Tim and I have talked about this in the past. And I think it's another thing that we need to start bringing back up again is how do we start partnering up a little bit and offering some of the programs that we can, because we don't have an ag pathway. And I know we have kids that would love to have that. You know?
Yes, because when you're thinking of electives at my school, the kids are always like, oh, we just have tons of ag electives. We don't have enough of other ones.
Right, so
I'm like, okay, flip flop.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think these are all good things to start looking at and moving forward. So we wanted to start the conversation, kind of get the feel where people were. And if we could do the work-based learning again, I definitely think it's, somewhere to go. So. Right. And that brings us right to new course proposals.
Can I say
yeah.
one other thing? I think we can do more to encourage kids to do independent studies.
We still have to have teachers that.
I know
wanna
we
do
still
that,
have to have teachers, right? But I think there are kids who would take advantage of that
Mhm.
and be willing to do the work, produce a paper, a research project.
And I don't think,
Have to be
and encourage
supervised.
staff to say, look, this is an option as well, to develop an independent symposium, right? Because that's,
In Bethlehem, part of a program that is ending is they have a senior, well, they actually have a research component, but every year, but senior research, they have to have an internship and they write a paper and they have 40-minute presentations, all of these things. And when the kids come back and visit, that prepared me so well for college.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
they only touch base with the teacher once or twice a week. And it is an
Yeah.
assignment, but
Yeah.
it's something that they build towards all
And
along.
that might
and
be
it's-
one of those registered programs with like 54 hours and
Sure.
Right.
and work, and you do however many days with, you know.
But there's options. And I think if we're willing to have the conversations to start those programs, they're cutting that program or is going away. Yeah. We're done.
They're making fun.
So, but I think there's options out there that we could look at.
Yeah.
And I agree. I think some of the independent, that's not something we've explored, I don't think, since I've been here, is the push for the
We have a
independent.
couple. And it almost comes from the students, really, right?
Well,
That
yeah,
they tap a music teacher and want to do something, or they tap a.
Right, and like my middle son is doing, it's through an outside college, but he's doing an independent study program where at the end of it, he's gonna have a work product
Yeah.
that he can
You can come
present
with
on
that.
a topic that interests him. And
Yeah. So I definitely think there's ways that we can start exploring this. So we're going to build this further.
And of course, more DL.
Yeah.
I mean, we always have those pieces to put in for extra. for students.
And if we can get partnerships with other districts outside of
That'd be
the
great.
BOCES deal, that would be well.
Something like obviously like coding.
Yeah.
That's easy enough people could do with another.
The hardest thing is scheduling,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And we're a 42-minute block, and then you got people that are 84, and then you got
Because
this,
of how long
the
they
one
have.
block on, right? And then they have all these different components of scheduling. It's, yeah.
Are you?
No.
There's a new one where it's like a drop one, add two.
Yeah.
That's a whole,
I don't even understand what that means.
it's where every other day you add a
lose
different,
one, you
you-
start
you-
at a different time.
you start at a different time and
So
lose
your
one
second
and gain
period
one.
is the
It's,
third, the first,
Yeah,
right?
that's-
Or
that's-
kids keep track.
yeah, it's a new one. But anyways, that's a whole different conversation. We're not there. So I just wanted, for the record, we're still our 42-minute blocks,
9 periods.
9 periods, not changing that. A-B rotation, we're good. So new course proposals. So this year we have 2 new course proposals. Both Karen and I feel that they're positive additions to what we're doing. The half-year Latin course,
Mhm.
we've kind of talked about a little bit. You know, I think this can grow and build, and it really gives the option. And Amanda Mason is a teacher who's also certified in Latin. So you can do this. We're looking at it, you know, SAT prep, English prep. I think kids, some people feel like kids may not want to do it. Other people feel like kids will want to do it. I think it's an option that they haven't had.
Yeah, I think if you offered it first semester,
That's.
junior year, I think you'd get a lot of
I
takers.
think you would too.
Well, we're going to offer it
Junior, seniors.
junior,
probably.
seniors first, and then,
Yeah.
you know, build that elective. And if it's an every other year kind of thing, you know, who knows how this will work.
And I'm assuming 2 sections, one each half of the year.
We have not had that full conversation yet.
I think it probably depends on how many students are actually
Yeah.
interested.
Because if it's only 7 kids or 10 kids, you know, I might run it for 10 kids just to get it off the ground.
Yeah.
Like if I, you know, typically, I don't know, right, you would run it, you know, but
Exactly.
we maybe would only run it once.
And this would just count as an elective credit.
Yes. Yep. Because we have no pathways.
Yeah.
Digital media, Karen, you want to talk about this one?
Sure, this was proposed by Kyle Tursky, our tech teacher, and this would be a full year course. This is something that Kyle's been really thinking about for a while. I talked about it last year as well. And this would be offered every other year in rotation with digital electronics, which is a Project Lead the Way class. So digital electronics this year has 8 kids, last year it had 6 kids. So it certainly could use 2 years to have a nice group moving forward. And the idea of this class, because I asked him to talk to me about how is this different from some of the other technology classes that we're thinking. He really is interested in having upperclassmen only, students who are a little bit more mature, but have already taken a credit with him. So it could be digital graphics 1 and 2, or it could be digital graphics 1 and media production. So they have these skills, and now he kind of wants to raise them to this more advanced level. So it would be content specific for digital purposes like advertisements and newscasts and creating digital magazines and the like. He's very excited about that. And he really, you know, doesn't have he was just like, oh yeah, I mean, we can fill this class. So he's not worried about having, you know, 25 kids in that room. He'd be delighted with that. So he does have a number of kids, obviously, over the past few years who have had those basic courses that are, he thinks, you know, kind of hungry to do that next. that next piece. So I thought that would be great. And we don't need any new software. We don't need, it's all stuff that they have some understanding of and that we already have.
And so those are our 2 new courses for this year. We're looking at possibility of bringing a couple other courses back. So facts, as we've added the business teacher coming in, it's allowed us to play with those regulations a little bit. So they might be able to free up a period of the facts teacher again to be able, this year they offered the baking courses, I forgot. And it was really delicious because I judged it multiple times.
judge?
Oh yeah, the
I've done that
empanadas, and there was a cheesecake. Oh my gosh, it was so good. But like that was a newer course that just came back. So the more flexibility we have with that,
And that tends to be popular.
we can put more electives in as well. So we have a teacher that's already here as a full-time teacher. The facts is not, we're not cutting facts. So adding those electives in and being able to give more opportunities is a good way to do it as well. Kelly.
And forgive me for not knowing the answer to this, is this a pathway? Do we have enough courses that this is a pathway for students, or have we applied?
Karen,
for a pathway?
For the project legal aid
No,
piece in that sense? Or
Oh, like a tech pathway?
Is that a
Yeah.
pathway for graduation?
I'm not aware that they are. I'd have to find out.
We'd have to check with our guidance department to see how that one is working. Like if they're getting the endorsement for tech.
If it would be enticing for students, that.
To get the
some
seal of
pathways
endorsement.
that
Yeah.
don't
Provide that.
Yes.
A lot of the majority of our students all get the traditional pathway. I don't think it's as talked about as much, but we can definitely have that conversation. Yeah, I don't know enough about it to.
But you're right, that is.
No, I just like to see the option. I mean, I'm all for the
Flexibility.
world languages. I just know that for some students, that's not.
Right. And honestly, this might be a pathway that's already there and they're just not calling it the pathway.
Well,
But-
right, well, and I don't know what paperwork has to
Right.
be filed for it to be allowed.
Right.
I don't know.
But I think Kelly, you're on the right point.
Thank
The
you.
path is what other electives and offerings can we do for our kids, right? Not all kids learn the same. So let's keep let's keep some really high level ones, but let's look at all the other options that are there as well.
So here's another one
Yeah.
that I'll throw out. Robotics.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a robotics person, but I love watching that stupid show on
Yeah.
TV with the
BattleBots?
battle bots.
Yeah.
And
We
there
have
are-
all the other robotics stuff still saved from when they had a robotics program here.
There are like those regional competitions
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
Like the kids really get into it.
Yeah, if I had a teacher wanting to do the club for it and stuff,
Yeah, if
like
somebody,
we have
the
it
skills
and we
and was
have that in the
interested.
budget. So we have that robotics stipend there. So that's still there. You got to find the person who has the time and ability, right?
yeah,
Because,
exactly.
a lot of
not
our people,
anyone can teach it.
a lot of our teachers are coaching. They're doing, like there's 100 other things that people are doing. So it becomes difficult to find that person who has the time to do it. But I agree, robotics is cool. So, all right. So our last one that we want to talk about, and David Stubbs, I met with him. He creates this furniture that is just really understanding of students and teaching and flexibility. And his mindset is very different than the traditional. It's like about how can furniture be used in a classroom to make it an accessible classroom across the board, right? It's not a teacher's classroom. It's not a student's classroom. It's a learning space. And how do you flexibly do all these things? It because I don't know what the next slide is. It kind of started because we get these requests for tables and we get requests for a desk and we're putting $10,000, $15,000 into these things. Are we changing the instruction? Is it looking different in the classroom? Are we giving, is it
even thinking?
Right.
Are we even giving teachers the idea that there might be more things out there,
Right.
there might be other things?
So I found this video and honestly, that conversation is really where it starts. And this is David. It's about 2 minutes. So, and Kelly, if you do, I want to apologize. I know that your child has a game.
No,
Okay.
I'm already going to
Okay.
miss.
So I'm going to. This really highlights what I'm trying to say in a very articulate way. All of those is the furniture that we're talking about. And that highlights exactly what I was trying to say. Um, so we've been looking at a couple other different school districts, and again, this is all comes down to money, right? Let's be honest. Um, David's stuff is sold by Accents on state contract. We've worked with them before. The stuff is extremely durable. I can't explain to you how durable. Like you can jump on it, stand on it. It is made to be in the classroom. All the tables are whiteboard. They all, if you treat them, they all become whiteboards. The standing tables actually flip up,
Oh, yeah.
so like they become whiteboards as well. So they're multi-purpose kind of things.
Very smartly designed. right?
Yes,
So
very
that They
smartly
all
designed.
fit into each other.
But it comes with the conversation,
Yeah.
not just the furniture, right? And this is where we're looking at. Queensberry has done a lot of work on this over the years, and now Averill Park has also started it. Averill Park did a pilot program where teachers had to put into a program. They could get their classroom
They were interested.
if they were interested, and there were some criteria, but they got to choose the furniture that was a part of it. They designed a room, and they had to go through PD, and they had to do some other things as part of it, like because it was you kind of understand it, but they got the ability to have that flexibility in their rooms. And one of the ones that we saw, and we saw a bunch of classrooms. We saw a foreign language classroom, we saw a math classroom, English, science, and the science teacher, oops, because I'm doing it.
While you're talking, I'm gonna make sure you have access.
Thanks, Karen.
Yeah. Sorry.
She shared some of her work with us, and the kids were telling us about it, and some kids thought it was uncomfortable at first, and then they started to like it. Some of the classrooms had not enough tables for all the kids, and that was on purpose because it was the change. Some of the classrooms didn't have a teaching area because it was taking away it was all the space of all the learners. And one teacher who was doing it said, "I'm the fun teacher. Yeah, I look like the fun teacher, but I need my space. I need my row." Like they were starting to overcome that feeling, but they need their area. And that's kind of what I would like to start working on in here is developing some pilot program here, budgeting money into the budget for next year instead of just buying a teacher $10,000 worth of tables, saying, look, if you guys are interested, let's look at how you're going to use this, get you the PD, get you, some criteria, and let you really have some, say in your classroom, because what he said was perfect. You're going to make a decision that's going to be in this school for 20 to 50 years. And, we want to make sure that the teachers have the ability to grow and have these conversations and not feel stifled by the furniture that's around them. Elementary school, it's already kind of built in, right? Like they're already flexible, they're already doing it. So the more furniture we can get for them, the better. But this is really a secondary kind of push. When we're doing the building over, I'm going to kind of lead towards this anyways when we're buying new furniture. But here we go. Perfect.
So this science teacher shared her presentation that she made to her faculty after having used this. So this is her OG, her original room. You can see the typical, looks like a science room, which is nothing wrong with that.
And this is a station here, a presentation station
Yeah,
right in the
her
middle.
front presentation station, which interestingly, she was okay with saying, take that out. That was from the back of the classroom.
It's very traditional. Here it is now. So they have the tables all around the end. But see these tables? Those are your classroom tables. They all stack on top of each other. Even the ability just to do that, it changes your whole dynamic of your classroom. Because if you want to be able to have circles or whatever, you can do it quickly.
And you can see that she still has a couple of those typical science stations on the side.
This circular component is movable. This is one of the furniture pieces that we were talking about as well. But so here's the current setup from the back of the classroom. From the desk area, Karen, if I'm going too fast, let me know.
No, you're fine. It was very interesting when Frank and I were in there. There were, you'd see a little table and there'd be 3 kids around it with the Chromebook. They're truly, really into it, working together. You have a couple kids over at a lab paint.
I mean, look at this right here. I mean, that's more of a college. You would consider that a college setting, right? With the kids together, working together. But
and those resources are there for the kids they go and get, right? So I found that kind of interesting because one of the things they talked about was it's not so much. Here's my class. This is the way I taught, right? I had my desk. I had my rows or groups if I was doing some sort of like collaborative thing. But you're coming into my teaching space, and this is our learning space. And so many teachers who were not talking to each other, we were in separate rooms, and they'd say, students got that instantly. You didn't say it. They felt it. They understood it. To be able to see look at that. I mean, for her to be able to do this large circle, because you can move things. So it's so agile. You can move things.
and then they do this.
And then she breaks into 2 circles.
So you saw the room prior. You saw what it can do, and look at the formats that she was able to accomplish with furniture that is scaled back enough to be, and you can get Chromebooks on those and everything else. And the ability to do things like that's what I'd love to start seeing some of this happening, and teachers have the flexibility and freedom to be able to do some of that.
The language teacher only having 24 kids in the class, but only having like 13 or 14 desks, tables, or whatever you call those.
Yes, that's the one table I was talking
that
about.
was her decision. Somebody else has enough for everybody. It's just.
And she was nice enough to share this with us so we could give you a little slice of the classroom.
Which was interesting.
And they have the storage system is very different there. David's storage, I love the storage system. I just think it's phenomenal because you can set up the storage system all different ways. The cart is extremely durable. It pulls out and down, like, so imagine like you're an elementary school teacher and you have a level library. You're only working on a certain level, yet you don't have to keep it all in your room. You could have an area to go, like rethinking the space itself. I mean,
or
again,
when the kids are working in the stations, that actually acts as a bit of a barrier between 2 groups working. And again, she even had this, which I thought was interesting. Few bruises. It must be because she doesn't bump into the tables as much. Storage is awesome. It's welcoming. Kids love it and feel great. She really jumped right into it. You could tell.
So
the teacher was comfortable with it because it's just their first year, I believe.
Was that everything today?
Yep.
You two went and visited.
Yes.
To take a look at what this furniture is like.
Was anybody able to go with you to, I didn't know if any other teachers were able to go.
So we're not,
Kind of get.
so we're not there yet because I wanted to have the conversation here and see, first off, I wanted to make sure this is something the people in the room kind of feel is supportive because it is budgetary, right? I do have to budget it,
And you have to have this PD. this,
right?
that
You know,
comes with
this furniture isn't cheap. You know, to outsource a room, it's $15,000 to $20,000 depending on what you get. So it's not a cheap program to do this. And I don't, and how much money we have and when the budget comes in, it all depends. Like we may only be able to do 1 or 2 rooms. We might not be able to do a lot, right? It's like we have to rethink our equipment lines and everything else with this. So there's a lot that comes to it. So, but I first wanted to get the feeling
that.
of,
To start thinking about it.
do you
before
feel this is
start-
an important conversation that we should start having? At least, or is it something worth looking into further?
I think there may be some teachers that are interested. I'm sure there are gonna be some teachers that are gonna say, no way, I have
Absolutely.
desks in rows,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Yeah.
But if it's something where the teacher is choosing if that's what they want,
Yes.
and they are involved in the decision,
Yes.
that is key.
And Karen and I both agree is this can't be a top-down kind of thing. We can't say as a district, we're going to buy all this really cool furniture and you're going to use it in a classroom. That's not what we're going to do.
It's
Um,
too expensive to
Yeah.
not do this right.
and honestly, it's not going to get used the right way
Yeah.
and it won't change any of the conversation.
It's just gonna be pretty tables and.
Yeah.
and
So-
if that's who you wanna.
So what they have offered us to come back. And they were very welcoming. So if we have people that want to do the pilot program and look in and have conversations, we asked how they started it and they literally just said, we talked about it. We gave them a couple ideas
We
and
showed the videos.
we showed the video and we had people got excited right from
Before
that.
we did Yeah.
It was, and that, because I said, did you have somebody come in? Did you bring them? He goes, no, we just talked about it.
And you really don't wanna guess
First
who would be,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
oh, Robin coming.
Yeah.
You know, like you wanna have it open for anybody who might
Right.
be interested. And they were surprised. They had a couple people who surprised them
Yeah,
by wanting to do it,
Yeah.
you know, and jump in.
The one caveat I would just make is we would decide on the furniture brand, right? Like we've done the research. I've looked at this.
Yeah.
Like this is where I would go. I would be
Yeah.
using this brand. Accent Furniture would, this is the one I would use because of the durability, the flexibility. There are other furniture companies out there. They are not the same quality. What the teacher puts in their room, that would be on them. The one thing that they said at the district we went to was one teacher, they said, you're carte blanche. So they got like 5 chairs here, 6 chairs here, 7 chairs. They all said the same thing as I maybe would have scaled back on some of these things or maybe would have done it a little bit different. So giving some criteria of what works best
yeah.
and then choosing, they said that would probably be the next step that they do instead of just going full force because not everybody knows what they want.
No.
And then it gets a little crazy. So thoughts?
I love the idea of teachers having choice in that, as you're saying, like, what works for Robin might not work
Right.
for me, and that we could, and I know that at the elementary level, and because we work within budgets, it's the real
Mhm.
world, and we beg, borrow, and steal
Yep.
to, and some of us have tried to do that in the elementary school, and this sounds very much like a secondary, and I understand we're going into capital project. But does that mean that classrooms in the elementary that aren't getting a facelift in the elementary would be a part of this?
So
If you're interested,
the beauty part of this is money, right?
but they're not be a part of
Yeah.
this
Right.
is money.
So my first go of this year would be secondary because it's a conversation at the secondary level of changing the instructional model. There's not a lot of stand and deliver instruction. The elementary, you do stations, you do all these other things, the elementary model. The classroom in the secondary does not lend itself as much to that. And if we're only going to be able to do 3 classrooms, we're going to push that priority to the secondary level. If this is an initiative that the district, I think, is going to look forward to and keep going, then it was going to have to absolutely go to the elementary school. This is a long-term shift, right? Like it's going to take years
Well,
to
and
redo
because
some
And
of
it's not
these.
for everyone.
although the elementary does a lot more of that, the furniture can be a hindrance nonetheless. So
Yep.
hope that it's on the
Right, that's
scale
very
Right.
eventually.
Like, so the science room, for example, the new science room that we're building down there, that's going to get all of this furniture, right? And people will be able to do the flexibility and do all those things since we're redoing that. So any classrooms that will be able to get the state furniture component into it, they're going to be able to have the flexibility of this classroom. And then over time, we're going to have to start building it in. But if I can open it up to elementary, it all depends on what the budget looks like and what we can do or can't do. Because when I came back to Jim and told him what I was planning, I think he had a like Jim was not happy about my thought process.
Well, on one sense, it makes sense to do a whole room well versus seeing what you get half of it this year,
Yeah.
and half of it this year. So
Yeah.
You really can't do it.
And that's what they did. They were like full classrooms, so.
Yeah, I'll say the move towards having more collaborative learning spaces is happening everywhere,
Yeah.
like colleges, workplaces. Everywhere.
And if we don't start having these conversations, we're going to be behind.
And people are going to take different amounts of time to get there in there.
Like we said, there was a teacher one teacher we went and saw was like all in. Another one had the furniture and said, I still am struggling.
I still keep this
Yep.
area as my own,
Yep.
right? And the math teacher, you saw the gentleman who makes the furniture in that little video. He's got that station. That's what the math teacher used. That was all he had. He did not have a teacher desk. He had this, and he could move it,
Yeah.
and then he could boom, put it down and be sitting next to
And
the
it fits
teacher,
right into
and
a
it fits
table.
Right into the kid's desk.
Yeah.
And then he can pull it up and be somewhere else. And it wasn't like, I stand here at the front of the room. It was
Yeah.
different. It had a different feel. It had a different feel.
And
Yeah.
I'm
It
gonna-
was exciting,
But
but
I think the movement component is really good, especially at the secondary level, because it's like, hurry, 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 get to your next class and sit still
yes.
for 40 minutes.
I went by a classroom the other day and I walked by and I heard like this and I go, and I walk into the teacher's sweating, right? Like,
Moving stuff.
and it was a high school classroom and the teacher's like, oh, I want to do this and I want to have Socratic conversation. I'm doing, so they're in there moving these huge desks and tables. And I
And
go,
you have to
this
do
is
it
what
for,
I'm
like,
talking
all
about.
day,
And I came
right?
to you.
Because once you
And that's what I said to you. I
move
go,
it,
that's a
Yeah.
teacher that would be probably
Yeah.
would like jump at the opportunity to do this because they're trying to do it now and struggling.
And if you happen to share a room, like I can remember being a teacher and doing a big circle with my desks and doing this kind of
Then you're stuck with
debate
it.
or whatever I was doing
Yeah.
in my class. And then I shared the room 2 periods a day was a French room. And so, how inconvenient when they have that teacher how to move things back, or I had to move things back for that teacher. And
Yeah.
it's nice to be
But
able
how do we handle the potential problem of you have 15 people who really want this and you can afford to do 3
Yeah, that I don't know yet. I have to fill up criteria, rubrics. There's going to be, some program initiatives that I have to develop and work through with Karen and really kind of go through where it is. And,
But wouldn't that be exciting to
I'd
have
say
so
that'd
many
be a
people
good
excited?
problem
to
to
do
have.
it?
I love
it.
the
Would be a
term.
good problem to have, but it would
Yeah.
create a whole nother level of upset.
But unfortunately,
Gotta start somewhere.
yeah, that's where it is, right? If you can't go all in now, you just keep doing it. Like if at first you don't succeed, you try again. But yeah. And again, I don't even know how much we can offer at this point, and if it's completely feasible, but this is the direction that I really feel strongly in moving towards. So
I like it.
those were the 3 things we had. All right. Anything else?
For me.
All right.